Hey, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, 5 years ago, we were about a month into this whole COVID debacle. How much of living through that time period has influenced the way that you do work today?
Well, things have changed a lot. It used to be a lot of in-person patients, a lot of in-person accreditation requirements. Now a lot of it is telehealth. So we can do phone, we can do, we used to say Skype. Now we can do Zoom sessions, things like that.
So, let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. And the best way to do that is to put you in front of a bunch of kids. It's career day, they're fifth graders. One of the kids in the back of the room is like, "What do you do for a living?"
Wait a minute, why would you put me in front of kids? I have no filter. Um, so I don't do anything with kids at all. But if you're asking like what do I do? Like
Yeah,
what is
just
my
boiled
background?
down. Yeah, just for explanation purposes to simplify it.
Okay. So I have a company that does in-home addiction and mental health, basically treatment. So we bring the entire treatment team to the client. We bring the doctor, the nurse, we do a mobile detox, we do sober companions, therapy, things like that. And then I have a signature service for executives and celebrities where I go and I do a 5 day reset. And it's, if you burn out or you have a vice you're trying to kick or you want to change something, I do that in about 5 days. It's pretty quick and pretty fast. And then I also have a training school called the Addictions Academy, and that is for people that want to learn to do what I do. So it could be learning to become a recovery coach or a sober companion or a therapist. We could train you to actually do those things.
So, what did you want to be when you were in the fifth grade? What was your dream life?
An FBI agent.
Oh, okay. So, take me back to where you were born and raised. How did the seeds of being kind of the guru of helping people get through addictions, how did this happen?
Sort of by accident. I noticed my family wasn't like other families. Although there was no addiction, there was a lot of mental health. So that led me to study psychology. And when I was studying psychology, one night I had come home from girls' night, and there was a sort of like a custom in my family where we would eat when we were stressed. So I was eating late at night, and a friend of mine had said, that's not normal because I was eating with my hands, I was eating cake, I was kind of upset, I was sad. So I went to the counselor. And long story short, they couldn't figure out what the problem was because back then I didn't have an eating disorder, but I was overweight. So they sent me to the fat doctor that put me on fen-phen. Well, fen-phen led me down a rabbit hole of almost dying, which led me to a doctor who said, "You're addicted to fen-phen." Well, at that point, I was like, well, it's doctor prescribed, it's a weight loss drug. How could I be an addict if the doctor gives me a medication for a problem they told me I had? So that's how it all started.
Gotcha.
And then I started taking classes on addiction because I couldn't figure out A, how to get off the stuff, and B, what was wrong with me. And when I took that addiction class, I went, oh, this makes sense to me. This makes a lot of sense. So I started studying it. And that's how I switched from wanting to be an FBI agent to wanting to do this, which then turned into I want to be an entrepreneur. So I've had 6 different companies, and this is one of the 6.
So, the what is it? Ozempic, the new diet drug that's out now. Are those really dangerous? Are they so easy to get addicted to?
Well, it's not that it's addicting physically as fen-phen, but mentally, yes, because you lose a lot of weight quickly,
Uh-huh.
and then you go, oh, well, this is what did it. This drug made me thin. I need this drug, but that drug is going to kill you. That's the problem. So if people actually learn good coping skills, how to eat, what to eat, how to exercise, how to drop your stress and cortisol, your body will have its natural set rate. You won't need these drugs, but everybody wants a quick fix to look a certain way. And
Yeah.
a lot of times they're willing to take anything to get there.
Yeah. So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your work?
Shelley Campbell,
Yeah.
Dr. Drew, Joe Dispenza, Jose Silva. If you Google any of those, Wayne Dyer, everybody in the law of attraction group would be in my sector.
I've read several books. I read a book about Steven Adler, the drummer from Guns N' Roses. I interviewed his mom and saw on the inside of addiction, and I've seen a lot of the behind the music things and all these things. That's a heavy, heavy world to step into to deal with that kind of turnaround. How do you stay sane? How do you stay grounded? How do you remain focused and effective in what you do by getting into those worlds?
So a lot of it is self-care. I go to the gym every day. I take mineral baths. I work on going out in nature. I travel a lot. I recharge my batteries in solitude as opposed to, going out in public and being around people. But I do work in that music market. So I do a lot with celebrities, a lot of rock and roll guys. I was married to a rock and roll drummer. So I'm very familiar with that lifestyle. That's very different than dealing with the neighbor's kid who's messing around with huffing and kratom. It's a very, very different level. And that is the level that I play in.
So, talk to me a little bit about your book. You kind of talked a little bit about that rock and roll lifestyle. Tell me a little bit about the book.
So I have two books. I have A Married a Junkie, which I wrote with my husband when he was still alive. And then I have I'm Married a Junkie 2, which is the final chapter. It's sort of like how COVID pushed off into his drug addiction, the band shut down, and what happened behind the scenes and all of that. And he eventually passed away. And it wasn't from drug use. He had 29 days sober, but it was from long-term complications of drug use. So we talk about that in the book. And the stories are they're unhinged. They're pretty crazy. So it's not like, you're normal. I had a couple drinks and got a DUI. It's kind of like I had, a bunch of K, went into a K hole and crashed a truck, and my wife had to come get me kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very different.
So, what was there a client with was there a moment that you knew this was going to be your life, that you were going to help people get out of addiction and get into recovery? Did you have a moment like that, or was this always kind of something that was woven into your DNA to evolve into this profession?
Well, after college, I did my internship at a prison. So after college, I kind of worked with runaway girls. Then I worked in a high-end boys' school. Then I went into women with children. I went into Kensington, Philadelphia. And it was always nonprofit. And I didn't want to do nonprofit. It was high work. It was high stress. It was low pay. And I quit the whole industry. And I started a fitness company. And I had the largest fitness company, in-home fitness company in the country, went gangbusters and made a lot of money really fast, lost it all in the economic downturn of '08. And I was kind of sitting there like, what do I want to do now? And I went into the music industry, completely unrelated to this, met my husband, and he said, you're really good at this. This is what your gift probably is. So I got back into it and I was working for a company. And I thought I really want to be, an entrepreneur owner again. I had already owned four companies. So I'm like, let's do this. So I created this and it's slowly started to blossom and then it kind of went gangbusters. So that's what it's been for the past 15 years.
How do you remain hopeful? Are you hopeful? I mean, seeing all of this, the dark side of humanity, and having to give that light to people to get them into recovery, do you remain hopeful? How do you and if you do, how do you keep that hope?
So everybody's different. I let them know I'm just your guide along this path. You're going to make the decisions, you're going to drive the bus, and you have lots of choices. So if you want to do this and you're all in, I'm all in. If you're not sure, then I'm not sure. I'm with you through the process. So I don't own their recovery, I don't own their relapse, but I'm here to help. So there are clients, that have passed away from use, that have died while robbing somebody. There's all of those things, overdose, committed suicide, but there are also clients that have gotten sober that call me every year and say, hey, I'm still sober. I have another year. I have a guy that calls me every Christmas, 15 years in a row. Every Christmas like clockwork, he still says, I'm sober, thank you. And I get to hear what's going on. I have a new kid. I have a new wife. I have a new job. I bought a boat. Whatever his new thing is. And that's really cool. So hearing those stories and watching people actually make it and then get into the field to help other people is really cool.
What's been, I mean, and I know you have to be anonymous, but what's been one of the toughest clients that you thought it wasn't going to happen? It may have broken you, or it may have just been disastrous, but it ended up working out, and there's been a residual, like the phone call on Christmas. Have you had a case like that?
I've had one of the hardest actors in Hollywood. And it was one of those people that everybody said, this person will never get sober. It will never happen. This is who they are. And they had gone through 10 different rehabs, jail, all of it. And they had burned through every sober companion company. And they called me and I came in and I said, well, we're a little different. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to hold your hand. If I'm coming, I'm pretty in your face. So I went and he hated me. I mean, the first 5 minutes, he called me the C word, the B word, the A word. And I just stood there and I'm like, whenever you're done and ready. And he just kind of stopped because none of it worked. And he was like, eventually, like 3 days later, he goes, all right, I'm going to play ball. I'm like, okay, because I'm not going anywhere. So then he started to play ball with me, and we started to get, do some of the work and the trauma work and whatnot. And I said, I'm going to frame this for you differently. Don't look at this like sobriety forever. Look at it like sobriety for 30 days. Just like a diet, right? You're going to go on the South Beach diet, the Weight Watchers diet. 30 days from now, you can have cake. You can have all the drugs you want. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, you can have all the coke, all the crack, all the women. I don't care. But 30 days, you're going to commit to this. And he went, okay. Gave me 30 days. And on day 31, he goes, I don't think I want to go back to that lifestyle. Now, I knew that would happen. He
Yeah.
didn't. So that's one of my best success stories.
Wow, that's wild. So let me ask you this. You've had quite an adventurous life. If you were to have a dream tonight, run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart?
I would say buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. It's it, 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 it's very interesting. I wouldn't change anything. The highs, the lows, all of it. Going from having 4 million in my bank account to zero in 30 days, because that taught me a lot. That taught me how to do different things. In that fitness company, I was able to use the tools and skills I got to recreate the company I have now. Had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have the skill set to do what I do. I wouldn't have the resilience. So there's a lot of things that I've been through that a lot of people said that would have broke me. I mean, losing my husband, I was 48. I'm a widow at 48. A lot of people say, well, that would have broke me. Well, here's what I did. Here's how I got out of it. Here's how I handled it. So it's any of those things, as awful as they were at the time period, in the long run, I needed to be in those things to be who I am.
So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, who do you admire the most for entrepreneurs that are in the world?
You mean like a successful business person?
Yeah, like somebody that's doing it right, that's an entrepreneur that you look up to.
I don't know. In my space,
Well,
probably
or
nobody
just
in
in
my space.
general, just in the world at large.
Well, Joe Dispenza is pretty cool because
Yeah,
Joe Dispenza is Jose Silva trained, as am I.
yeah,
And he took Jose Silva's concept and kind of morphed it into his own, got a little science behind him, and went gangbusters. So
yeah.
he's killing it. So,
Yeah.
so he's really neat. And there are people making as much money as him, but not as refined or not as easy to work with. So there's a couple, other people that are killing it. A Grant Cardone, but his entire company was built by his wife.
Yeah.
So I credit her for his success, which most people don't. They see it as his, I see it as hers. So I would say that.
So, of all of these things that you've evolved into and achieved and become, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
I have that answer. Um, Probably that I've been to almost every state and every national park, which doesn't even fit because all this other stuff. I mean, I've got 6 books. I'm working on a seventh one. I've got all these companies. All of that's easy to me. So it would have to be something that's more challenging. So when I was 14, I wanted to see every state and every national park, and I have them all almost all done. So that would probably be my coolest accomplishment.
What's your favorite one? What's your favorite national park?
My favorite national park was probably the Hoh National Rainforest in Washington State on
Okay.
the peninsula. That was really cool because you had the Sol Duck Hot Springs, Hoh National, and then you had Mount Rainier, and I did all three in like 3 days, and it was three temperate zones, so that was really cool.
That's awesome. So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Badass. I've always been the badass. I'm the black sheep that if somebody's gonna buck the system, it's gonna be me. So a lot of people will say, "What is she gonna do now?" or "What's the next thing she's gonna do that's controversial?" That's me.
So, speaking of music, what was the first live concert that you saw that blew you away?
My first live concert, I was 14, was Billy Joel.
Oh,
So
cool.
that kind of set the precedence for stage presence and music and what I expected.
What did you learn about being close to the music with your husband being in the industry? What did you realize? I mean, above and beyond addiction, but just that industry is a very specialized world that a lot of people don't get to penetrate and get into that often. What'd you realize about it?
So all those artists, first of all, now most people don't write their own music. So there's a writer, and I'm getting the writer sober. And then there's an artist that performs the music. and most of that money goes somewhere else. So the people doing the work usually aren't paid. So when somebody says, "Oh my God, Morgan Wallen's concert tickets are $11,000 front row," he's not getting $11,000. He's getting a very small percentage of that. So people kind of blame the artist for the pricing, and that's not accurate. And the way they position them, they road dog them. So it's like concert, 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 concert. They're exhausted.
Oh yeah.
Half the time when you see them, they're tired of playing the same music. They just get up and do it. They put on game face. And a lot of them don't even like the songs they're performing anymore.
Yeah.
So when people are like, "Oh my God, I heard their number one hit," and they're so excited, or they're like, why didn't they have enough energy behind it? They're tired. They're tired of playing the same thing. It's a job. It used to be fun. They did it for fun. Then it became a job. So a lot of people miss that. That's why they're medicated 99% of the time.
I remember John Mayer in an interview one time said, when I was a teenager, I used to pretend like I was playing to an arena. And he said, now I pretend like I'm playing like I'm in my bedroom as a teenager again. Like there was this whole like mental reversion to get away
Yeah.
from the limelight, so to speak, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so you've obviously traveled quite a bit. What was one of the most unexpectedly beautiful places that you've been to?
Well, my favorite place is Laguna Beach, California, which most people they hear California and they're like, "Oh, it's a cesspool." But I had always been drawn to California. And when I got a chance to go out there, I was 23 and I drove from Vegas to San Diego and then went all the way up to PCH and flew out of San Fran. And when I hit Laguna Beach, I stopped and I was like, "This is my spot." So every time I get a chance to go out there, I'll go lay in my spot. It's like a little manifestation spot in between the two Starbucks on the main beach, which is really cool. So that when I tell people, they're like, "Where?" Like it's not LA, it's Laguna Beach specifically, right in front of the lifeguard tower. And a lot of them are like, "Okay, that's weird." And I've been everywhere. I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Alaska. There's a fishing village in Alaska that's phenomenal. It's called Seward, which is a tiny little fishing village that's really cool. We've had the best salmon in the world. And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, have you done Anchorage?" Yeah. Have you done this? Yeah. But it's the little places that are different that I really liked.
So 2 years ago, I'm in Kansas City. We drove to Colorado and made our way to San Diego. And I came home early, but my wife and stepdaughter stayed, and she loves sea lions, and they went to Laguna and totally flipped out. Like she even
Yep.
said that. She was like, "This is like paradise. I have no idea how I made it here, but I never want to leave." I remember her saying that very specifically. So
Yep.
it's man, it's beautiful out there. So if anyone wants to pick up your books, anybody has questions, they want to reach out, any of the good business in your world, where can they go?
So I'm on Amazon. So if they want a book, it's pretty easy. Type in my name on Amazon. But if they need to reach me, I'm at soberondemand.com or theaddictionsacademy.com. And I'm all over social media as Dr. Cali Estes.
Okay, excellent. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.